Hello and welcome to today's Here's to Your Health podcast. I'm Don Lensman, your host, and my guest on the podcast today is Dana Neemann. Dana is the Director of Education here at CCMH, and Dana, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Don.
What we're going to talk about today is we're going to give you a recap on possibly one of the best run intern programs that I've ever seen.
Thank
and the
you.
super success that we've had with that so far this year. So Dana, why don't we start by just talking about how the whole concept of an internship program came to us?
Well, ultimately, Don, it's been something that has been a lot of side conversations with leadership as well as frontline staff for a long time. I know one of the things that Erin had really wanted to accomplish when she was the CNO was to really kind of help streamline an internship program. Macy Waldemer and I sat down and figured out we can make this happen, but there has to be a little bit of structure in place. And ultimately, in order to get young men and women to want to come and spend their summer in an internship in small town Iowa, it has to be more than just you're going to come and job shadow. And so we did develop a paid internship program. And with that, we were able to do a number of different things as far as professional development with the youth as well as on-the-job clinical learning.
And I think it's important for us to point out that these were not junior high or high school students.
No.
These are students in college who are already pursuing a course of study, and they're very committed to a career in healthcare.
Well, one of the things that we do a really good job with is we have a really good handle on the youth when they're in our area. It's once they leave our area that we kind of lose them. And so we are very successful with things like Scrubs Camp, doing a lot of community outreach with the different elementary schools as well as, the middle schools and the high schools. We do observation experiences and things like that. But we really wanted to give these young men and women an opportunity to come in and do more hands-on stuff and less observation. The only requirement was they had to be a high school graduate, preferably high school graduate, as well as 18 years of age or older. And all of our interns that we had selected are already either in school or are enrolled in school in the fall.
And there are a couple of different ways that you can run internship programs, either paid or unpaid, but ours happened to be a paid internship program.
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to have a unanimous support with our executive team, and so we were able to employ 6 paid internship students, 6 paid intern positions, and that was for an 8-week rotation.
And they were in several different departments, correct?
Yes. So we had 4 nursing interns, 2 of which were housed in the emergency department for the most part during their rotation, and then 2 on the medical surgical unit, also for the most part during their rotation. So those were our 4 nursing interns, and then we had 1 rehab services intern, and fortunately enough for us, that young woman had been into our organization in the past doing a lot of observation hours, and she is getting ready to start, I believe, her junior year at U of I for her undergrad, and her goal is to go on and become a physical therapist. And then we had one other young woman that was housed in the radiology department, and she has completed her undergrad, and she is now waiting. She's on the wait list in order to start the radiology program at Mercy College of Health Science.
My guest on the podcast today is Dana Neemann. Dana is the Director of Education here at CCMH. We're talking about the recently concluded internship program here at CCMH, 8 weeks paid internship during the summer. And the benefits of the program, both for the students and for the hospital. So as we talk about this experience, Dana, maybe you can share with the people who are listening today some of the highlights of the program and whether or not we actually reached the goals for these students while they were with us.
Well, some of the highlights I have to say is that all of the students, we had, my personal highlight is that we had, once a week we had a professional development piece. And so one of the things that as a mother of adult children, as well as, a professional in the working world, a couple of things that we struggle with is learning soft skills until we're actually in the working world. And soft skills meaning emotional intelligence, really what to expect, how to handle difficult conversations, how to handle your own personal emotional response to the situation that's occurring in front of you. And so we had a lot of really good conversations with the students and helped them be able to map out and utilize the tools and the resources that they were learning here in their future endeavors. And so we completed Emotional Intelligence 2.0 as a book club, and it was very interactive, and it was great because one of the students, she actually had never worked in a healthcare environment before. She's doing her undergrad now, and she's going into the nursing program. Her takeaway from that particular segment of the professional development piece was, I can use this to have a difficult conversation with my roommate. And so that was great. So we're teaching them some life skills. Some other things that we got to do is, of course, we worked on customer service, as well as safe patient handling, making sure that we're being safe for ourselves, but also for our patients. Of course, infection control. All of the students went through an on-the-job phlebotomy training, and so they received an internal certificate in order to perform phlebotomy within our organization. And we also did a telemetry class, and so that gave them the basics of being able to understand how to read telemetry and when to really anticipate maybe problems with a patient, as well as being able to associate, I'm seeing this on the monitor, this is probably what's going on with the patient's heart.
From a human resources standpoint, one thing that I know is difficult to do in rural Iowa is to recruit professionals to come back and work for us.
Yes.
And I know that your goal as Director of Education has long been to get students when they're young interested and excited about careers in healthcare. Then through the Scrubs Camp, give them a little bit more experience, a little bit more exposure to what goes on within a healthcare organization and how that all fits itself together. And now through the internship program to really help them to understand what that career path looks like.
Yeah.
And I think maybe what our audience would also might be interested in hearing is, how do you view the internship program and what that means for us to be able to recruit these individuals back into our organization in the future?
Well, first of all, it gives us a lot of opportunity to develop those relationships with those young men and women that are going to be our future peers. Not only did we generate excitement, and a couple of our interns were actually Scrubs Camp kids, and so that's kind of exciting. But it really helped garner and generate that professional relationship as well as that personal relationship, and it gave them an insight into the workings of a healthcare organization in rural Iowa. In fact, we had one intern, and I'm going to quote him because he's currently going to the school at the University of Iowa, and he's in the nursing program. He's in an accelerated BSN program, and he works as a patient care tech at the U of I hospital. And he quoted, or to quote him, he says, "I learned that just because it is a small town, it does not mean it's easier or less busy than a city." He also learned that it can be even more challenging at times due to the higher chance of knowing the patient and seeing them in that state. And so really it gives these young men and women that perspective that they are here to really help protect and care for their community.
Yeah, they're really in a small town. You're caring for family, friends, neighbors, relatives, people that you know in your community, and it gives it an entirely different dimension. My guest on the podcast today is Dana Neemann. Dana is the Director of Education at CCMH. We're talking about our successful internship program. Dana, as we move forward now in future years and we think about running the internship program again, anything that we would do the same or differently?
Well, one thing to tag on for completion, quote unquote, for this year is that just because they graduated the program doesn't mean we're just going to say sayonara, goodbye. It's going to be, we want to maintain contact and really help show that these young men and women that we're very vested in their futures. And so every single one of them, our intentions are to maintain contact with them over the years to come. As far as things that we would do the same, I think that definitely having 4 different nursing interns is very valuable because nursing is such an interesting career. Obviously, I'm a nurse at heart, and I'm a nurse by trade first, and before I'm an educator. And letting these students see that there's so many different aspects of nursing. It's not just you're going to go be a nurse and you're only going to do X. You get an opportunity to do so many things. I would like to eventually expand the intern program into some other areas. Even, as far as we'd have to see what Angie Anderson believes, but I really truly believe that if we were to be able to get an intern in here that works in our IT department with our biomed engineer, that is such a robust area, and we have a small but mighty, IT department, but it is very integral part. The first people that we call if something doesn't work is IT.
Yeah, technology has become a huge part of healthcare.
Yeah.
And usually, because of the way it's heavily automated, if you have a piece of equipment that doesn't work, you're usually calling the IT department, not the maintenance department.
Correct.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we definitely would like to open up the application process earlier, just so then that way those students that maybe are looking to secure their summer plans, they can kind of have a little bit better idea. And so that's definitely something that Macy and I have talked about. Another thing would be to offer another layer of professional development where it's not just myself and maybe 1 or 2 other people working through that. Unfortunately, with schedules and limitations this year, we weren't able to branch out as much, but we have asked for very honest feedback from the students, or from the interns, they're no longer students here, they're interns, from the interns here, and every single one of them were just very complimentary as far as things that we could improve on. They just wanted to be involved in a little bit more special cases. And so every single one of them were able to go through the OR, to be part of surgery. They got to see different aspects of the healthcare system and how it runs in a critical access hospital as well as a rural health clinic. And it was very eye-opening for them because people don't realize how robust we really are in this area.
When you talk about the internship program and opening that up, I know that probably it'll be after Christmas, maybe sometime January, February, we'll open that up. But in the meantime, if we have anybody who is interested in contacting you about that program, would like to learn more, how do they get in touch with you?
So there's a couple of different ways. Number one is you can always go out to our generalized CCMH homepage and process through something there. But really the best way to get a hold of me directly would to probably call my extension, which is 712-265-2795. Give me a little grace. I'm not at my desk all the time. Or shoot me an email. Shoot me an email directly. And I really appreciate that because then it gives me an opportunity to make sure that it's in front of me and then I can get a reply back.
Why don't you give us your email?
I should do that,
yeah.
Huh? So it is D. Neemann, and that is NEEMANN at CCMHIA.com.
My guest on the podcast today has been Dana Neemann. Dana is the Director of Education here at CCMH. We've been talking about our highly successful internship program. And Dana, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don, and thank you for being part of that professional development as well.
Happy to do it. I think it's a great program, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to come next year.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Don Litzman, your host for the Here's to Your Health podcast. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.